Hello, my name is Marcos Alvarez. I am a game developer. I also enjoy PC building as well as archery and photography, but we aren't going to talk about those last two now. One thing I wanted to do is make a budget build, but not just test it on how it does now, but see how good it can be going into 2025. The first PC I ever got was a old workstation PC I got for my work. Uh, it was pretty old by the time I got it. It had a 6-core Xeon with a GTX 770. At the time, I couldn't even play HD games in it. I tried to run Overwatch and Destiny 2, which were new games at the time. And anytime I tried to run at 1080p, those games would end up crashing after a while. Soon after I got that PC, I knew I had to build my own, so I saved money and ended up building an all-new PC. And I really enjoyed that. And I've built so many PCs now, even as gifts, that it kind of feels like I enjoy building a PC more than I do playing at it at times. So I got an itch to build again, even though I have perfectly capable PCs. Uh, but then Intel announces the Arc B580, which they claim can do 1440p gaming. It got me thinking, can you make a decent 1440p 60 FPS machine? And how well will this GPU work with games coming out this year now? PCs on a budget were then kind of considered to have some compromises. And I know $1,000 is a little bit more flexible, but with the B580, can those compromises be less affected? What am I trying to say here? uh, can you make a gaming PC with little compromise than you used to on a budget? I do not intend to daily drive this PC all year, but definitely intend to play it every once in a while with newer games coming out in 2025. This is also including driver support, which notoriously the A series kind of had trouble with in the beginning, and seeing if that is something that they will help out with as well. The machine. So after some part picking, research, cuts, additions, reevaluations, this is the part list I came out with. For the CPU, the AMD Ryzen 5 7600. So why AM5 when it would have been possible to save a lot more with AM4 machine? The 5600X is highly capable CPU. I used one for a while and it ran really well, but I wanted to go with AM5 so it can be on a platform with more of a future to grow. Not future proofing, but more future compatibility. But maybe I can win money for an upgrade in a Fortnite tournament. But why 7600? Well, here's my personal anecdote. When I built my first machine, I got a Ryzen 2700, but I got a bit of a what if scenario. I should have gotten a 2700X instead. Instead, now I initially picked a 7600X, but on second thought, convinced myself to take a slight step down. For 1440p 60 gaming machine, I think this would work out with just what I need. Purchased at $178.99. CPU cooler, Thermalright Assassin King SE. What has been said about Thermalright coolers? Budget thermal solutions that can even handle the high-end and hottest CPUs. The 7600 does actually come with a Wraith Stealth cooler, but it's always best to get a better cooler, in my opinion. I've been practically trying to give away Wraith Stealth coolers. The Assassin King SE should be more than adequate to cool the CPU at $19.90. Motherboard. MSI Pro B650S with Wi-Fi. This one took some revisions. I started with the MSI motherboard, this one. That was good, but a bit costly. A coworker recommended an ASRock motherboard, and it was more than capable. When it came time to purchase the motherboard, the ASRock board was not going to be available until later than I needed. So I went back to this MSI board instead. I probably could have saved more if I didn't go with the Wi-Fi enabled motherboard, but I chose to take one as a caveat. What if a person does not have access to get closer to an Ethernet port. This hits all the features I feel that are needed in the motherboard, except one issue. The USB-C port on the front panel is actually connected to the motherboard's USB 3.0 header, and does not take advantage of the USB 3.2 Gen 2 header. I may need to get some kind of adapter for it if I really want to use it. Price is $129.99. RAM. Patriot Viper Venom 32GB, 2x16 sticks. DDR5 6000 CL36 latency. This one I'm not sure if it's the best call. I thought 6000 MHz is too much, but after some talking with coworkers, I found the Patriot Viper sticks and it was a decent price. I went with 2x16 sticks because it seems like it was the current and ongoing requirement for most games right now. The cost, $73.99. Storage, Silicon Power UD90 2TB M.2. This part I am a bit concerned about. I'd usually prefer something with DRAM cache, but without it, an SSD would cost more than $100. Speeds should be good, but we'll have to see how well it works in the long run. I will definitely have to reinstall and delete games. Cost, $94.97. Video card, ASRock Challenger OC Arc B580 12GB VRAM. The impetus of this whole project, Arc A series had a bit of a rough start. I actually had an A570 and it was an okay card for the most part, but I did have trouble with a few games. For instance, the Dead Space remake, it had a weird graphical bug where Isaac Clarke's skin was pitch black due to not rendering the skin texture properly. Overall, performance-wise, it did okay with most games, but it did struggle with high-fidelity AAA games, like The Last of Us Remastered. I will give some of these games another shot once the build is up and running. If this card can actually do what's advertised, this may shake up budget options for GPUs going forward. Cost was $259.99. Case, Phanteks XT Pro ATX Mid Tower Case. This was a choice influenced by a video by Greg Salazar, with glowing recommendation. Although I did not get it at $50 like he has, I did at $60, which is still a great price for a budget case. One interesting note is that it is compatible with motherboards with rear connectors, so you can buy those more expensive parts and save with this case. Seems like a nice to have, but it won't be a factor for this build. And honestly, I actually love this case. It has a lot of features and design that makes building in PCs a lot easier, which I appreciate. Power supply. Corsair CX 650 watt 80 plus bronze certified power supply. Normally one of my non-negotiables is a fully modular power supply. I normally plug in what is required to try to have a neater build, most of the time. But again, this is a budget build and that kind of luxury is one I'm just going to have to live without. Other than that, it is a rather basic power supply from Corsair. EVGA is my usual go-to, but with the company's future in question, I've been thinking of other brands to try out. One shortcoming is this BSU comes with only one plug to power the CPU. It is totally fine to operate for this PC, but it may not be capable of CPU overclocking. I do not intend to do that anyway, so it's no major issue. I purchased this at $66.37. Case fans. Thermalright TL-C12C X3. Are case fans necessary? I say yes. Looking for a bundle for savings, I found this 3-pack of PWM fans, again from Thermalright. Would their low-cost solutions work with case fans as well as their CPU coolers? Also, to swing back to the case, it comes with one PWM fan placed in the rear. I normally rather not have 3-pin fans, so this is a positive, totaling with 4 case fans for total adequate cooling. Cost was $13.19. The total cost excluding tax and shipping is $897.38, with variable fees like tax and shipping added would be $964.92. The benchmarks. This segment may feel redundant considering all the major PC gaming enthusiast videos all have done their benchmarks and information you may need with those. I don't have the gear to do fair comparisons, so I'm only doing benchmark with this in isolation. I'd recommend please watching other videos to see better if this card alone will work for you. The feeling. So how does it feel to play games on this machine? So I played a handful of games. Some games ran great, and others I noticed a few issues here and there. One thing to keep in mind is you'll see screen tearing in a lot of these gameplay videos. I play with VSync turned off for capture to get the most accurate FPS. Just keep that in mind, please. Doom Eternal. The good news is I am able to run Doom on Ultra Nightmare settings, and it runs incredibly well in 1440p. Not really a surprise, as this is one of the most well-optimized games out there. I play the level Super Gore Nest whenever I want to test new hardware. I did run into one particular issue. I do not think ray tracing is working on this game for B580. When enabled, you should be able to see Doomguy and any other map elements on reflective surfaces. Here's the same area running on my main rig with 3090 to show you how ray tracing should work.
To make our friends transition into their new world a comfortable one.
Another ray tracing bug I found is in Halo Infinite. When toggling on ray trace sun shadows, there appears to be this shadow artifacting that you can see on the geo of the map. It gets more intense the higher the settings are set to, and disabling it just turns it off. Beyond that, normal gameplay is alright. This made me want to try other ray trace games to make sure this is an isolated issue. After toggling on ray tracing, it appears to work properly. Crawling on glass surfaces to see a shiny reflection of the webhead and the buildings across the street. Although one particular issue I ran into while swinging around, the game just freezes up. The game stops to load. Not sure if this is an issue completely due to the B580, but something to be aware of. Hitman World of Assassination had a particular problem where I just started the map with ray tracing enabled, and the game grounded to a halt at 1 FPS. I saved and reloaded the game to get past the cutscene, and it seemed to work just fine after. And going to an area where there are reflective surfaces, ray tracing is working. Dead Space Remake. This is one of my favorite games ever, but something I noticed with the A750 is there's a really bad bug where skin texture is just blacked out. So I made a point to see on B580 if the same thing occurs. It looks like everyone took mandatory crude oil baths. Not sure if this can be fixed as the game hasn't been updated in a while. I hope some developer at Motive can meet with Intel driver developers to see about it. Other than that, you can set settings to medium and the game will run well while still looking great. Solitaire. Solitaire is a computer game included with Microsoft Windows, based on the card game of the same name, also known as Klondike. The original version was programmed by Wes Cherry, and the cards were designed by Susan Kerr. Microsoft has included the game as part of its Windows product line since Windows 3.0. Starting from Resident Evil 4 Remake. Another well-made game at high settings, and it runs around 50 FPS and up. I love this game. I just wanted to share the scene that happened. I played segments of many more games, and overall, there's nothing bad. A few one-off game crashes and some stuttering, but overall, the game card just works. The closer you can buy at $250 or under, the better. What's next? So like I said, it's one thing to benchmark the game as of now, but I also want to see how well it does for the rest of the year with newer games and probably better technology in those games coming out. Will the B580 struggle with those games or be reliable for the rest of the year? And should PC gamers consider Arc GPUs more seriously? I plan to make recurring videos regularly to see how well the card does with newer games and have driver support helps out as well. Like one game, Assassin's Creed Shadows, it's included free if you bought the GPU. So that's one thing to test out since it's an Intel supported game, excuse me. Again, I am not fully driving the PC for a year, more like spot checking every once in a while. And if you have questions about the build or want me to try specific games if I can, if it's not much trouble, maybe I can get that in a future update. Also, what should I call this rig? I usually name all my PCs, but this one came around fast that I didn't really think of one as I started building it. Maybe leave a comment on what should I call it. Thank you for watching.